Hello guys, this is iPtech here, and in this video I'll be doing another PC build, but this time I have increased the price of our build from £500 to £600, and this build is mainly focused on if you want to go beyond 1080p gaming to 1440p gaming. So with this system you should be able to get some decent frame rates on most games at medium to high settings. The frame rates could be up to, depending on what settings you use. Like if you use medium settings you could get pretty high frame rates, but you can still use this system for 1080p gaming if you want to get like beyond 60 frames per second. But I would not recommend this for 1080p gaming as it's a little bit of an overkill. So you can decide whatever you want to do, but it's up. The choice is yours. Okay, so let's get on with the build. So you can see here is the components I have. So start with the main component, our CPU, which for this build I went with another AMD CPU, which is the FX8350. It's a 4 GHz 8 core processor. It's a beast of a processor. You have the 8 cores, which would be pretty good in games. And it's already clocked at 4 GHz, which you can still overclock up to 4.5 or even 5 GHz, depending on what cooler you use. With our cooler, as you can see, we have the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, which is the most recommended CPU cooler that I can give you. So we used this one in our previous build, and we're using it again since it's one of the best. So if you look at as with the previous build, I would suggest buying all your parts from the same manufacturer, which in this case is Amazon. But the downside to that is that it's going to cost you a little bit more, since the prices on PC Parts Picker here come from different suppliers. So you can go with the choices on the PC Parts Picker, which will give you the minimum price that you can find those components with, which in this case you can see the total comes up to £600, just over £600. But if you go with Amazon, the price could increase to potentially another 30 quid or so. So just keep that in mind. But again, I would suggest buying all your parts from the same place. It's be more convenient, and you wouldn't have, in case you don't have a account in any of the other suppliers, you don't have to go through signing up for an account just to buy the part. So, but that is my recommendation. It is up to you guys what you want to do. Okay, the CPU. So as I said before, this is the black edition. So it's clocked kind of higher, 4.0 to 4.2 GHz. It's got 8 MB of level 3 cache, and 8 MB of level 2 cache, which is enough. The socket is AM3 Plus, the same as the FX6300 CPU. So you need to use the AM3 Plus motherboard, so don't forget that. And this time the wattage is 125 watts, so it's a bit more demanding than the 6300. So that's why we went with a bigger wattage supply. And there's nothing much else to say about the CPU. It's a very good CPU for the price, especially on Amazon. As you can see, it's 24% off at the moment. So another thing to keep in mind, the prices may change since depending on when you watch this video. So they could go up or they could go down. So depending on when you watch the video, you might be able to get this for cheaper or for more expensive. So just keep that in mind. And at the moment, this CPU is 24% off, so it's 125 quid, which is a great price for it's a great price for this CPU, and I would very much recommend you buy it. So the next part, I already talked about this, the CPU cooler, which is this CPU cooler. I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of the best. The CPU cooler is fun CPU cooler. So next best thing would be the water cooled CPU cooler, which you can still get one for relatively double the price. You can get a fairly decent water cooled CPU cooler, which would allow you to go very if you want to overclock your CPU to, let's say, 5 GHz, I would not recommend using this cooler, since you could still try that with this CPU. You can still try that, but if you want to have some stable temperatures, low temperatures, and that, I would recommend a water cooled, like a closed loop water cooler, like one of the Corsair series, like the Corsair H80i, or if you want to go with the Corsair H100i, it's up to you. But for our build, we will only be needing the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo, which is very perfect for what we need. Okay, the other thing is the motherboard. Motherboards is another important thing, and this time I decided to go with the one above the one I used in the previous build. This time it's the MSI 970A G46 46ATX AM3 Plus motherboard, which is a bit more expensive than the G43, but you get the extra features, and if you want in the future, you can expand the storage. You get more storage with this, I believe. Let's go to the Amazon website. Our advantages: you do is USB 3.0, which you did not get on the G43, and still got the same easy overclocking technology as the previous board, and it is an AM3 Plus board, so you will support our CPU. And if you can see from the picture, it's got two it's got 2 times 16 slots, I believe. Yeah, it should have two times 16 slots, so you can put you can do Crossfire or SLI if you wanted to. It is up to you if you want to get other nano graphics cards. Okay, that's all I can say really for the motherboard. The next thing, as you can see, is the Kingston Fury Black Series 8GB, which is basically the same one as that white series. I used basically the same one as I used in my previous video, I believe. This time I'm going with the Black Series, as it is still it's a very good CPU, very good RAM for the price, 60 quid. But you can find it depending on where you go to. You can get it for cheaper or more expensive. So the cheapest at the moment, according to PC Parts Picker, is More Computers, but we can, if we go to the Amazon, you can see here it's only about 3 quid more expensive, which I think it's worth buying if you want to keep everything from the same website, if you want to buy everything from Amazon. And it is Prime eligible. Another thing I didn't mention about the parts, most of them are Prime eligible, some of them are Prime eligible, so if you have a Prime account, you can get the next day delivery and basically get your parts the next day and get on with the build. It's 1866 megahertz RAM, which the RAM doesn't do much in gaming performance, doesn't increase the FPS as some would believe, but it is good to have high clock RAM in case you want to do something else apart from gaming, like content development, that will utilize the higher speed of the memory. And that is all for the RAM. Next part is the storage, and this time I went with a Western Digital Caviar Black 1 terabyte hard drive. Did not go for an SSD since I wanted to keep it at around £600, and if you want an SSD, I would suggest you get the one get the 120GB from Kingston, which is I'll leave a link to everything that you see here in the description, in the video description, so you can check out the video description for all the links, and I'll provide extra links for different parts that I think would still work with this PC build. And if you don't want to perhaps get this part, I'll leave an alternate part that you can get that might be cheaper or more expensive depending on your taste. And yeah, but for this build I went with a Caviar Black, which is one of the best drives you can get for if you want a gaming PC. And that is it for the storage. So it is kind of on the expensive side, 72 quid from Amazon, but it's a very good hard drive. Got loads of storage, so you can keep all your games. As the other downside of a SSD is you don't get enough storage. Like 120 gigabyte SSD will not be able to like keep all your programs on, as you would want to install your Windows on the SSD to improve performance, but then you're not gonna be left with that much memory for all your games. So if you have a massive game library, a terabyte of space will be plenty. So, and in the future you still have room. So if SSDs are getting cheaper nowadays, so you can, perhaps by the time you watch this video, the prices would have gone sufficiently down so that you can afford an extra SSD to put in this build and wouldn't cost the same. Okay, let's move on from the memory and go on to the second or most important thing in a gaming PC, which is the graphics card or the video card. This is basically the heart of your, like the CPU, it's the heart of your gaming. It's what's gonna drive it's what's gonna drive your game, and it's gonna give you your desired FPS and graphics quality. And with this build, I decided to go with another AMD card. It's the one up above the 270X, which is the MSI Radeon R9 280. This is a 3GB version, 3GB GDDR5 of memory, which would take advantage. So if you game on 1440p, you're gonna need more RAM. 2GB would not necessarily be enough for any gaming above 1080p, like 1440p or even 4K, if you so choose to. So you need more RAM, like 3GB, which will be enough for 1440p game. This is the MSI version, the Twin Frozer, which is a very good looking card. It's got the red, like the red and black. So, and if you haven't noticed here, in this build I am going with a sort of a red and black build. So keep that in mind if you get in this figure. If you want a different build, then you can check out. There are loads of versions of the Radeon R9 280X, so you can find another version that's like, I'll leave one like the Sapphire version. There's a Sapphire, which I think it's a little bit cheaper than the MSI one, which I'll leave a link to that in the description, so you can check it out and see if you want that card or this. But there isn't that much of a difference. Okay, the next thing is, which is still very important in a PC in general, which is the case. This is where you're gonna keep all your components in, and this one I've gone with the Corsair Specco 2 case. I know I recommended in the last build Specco 1, which is very cheap for the price, but I wanted to, in this build, since we were having a higher price, so I decided let's go with a more expensive PC case, like the Corsair Specco 2 ATX style case. It's 50 quid, very good price, and not much more expensive than the Specco 1, and you get certain features with it. And see, I think it looks better than the Specco 1. It's got the Specco 1 and Specco 2 are basically the same PC with just slight cosmetic changes, but in my opinion, with this PC you do get like 2 USB 3.0s on the front panel, not one like in the Specco 1, so that could be an advantage to some people. And you can still fit the same amount of fans at the front, bottom, and you do have a filtered intake at the bottom, so you can mount your CPU at the bottom, PSU at the bottom, as you can see in the picture here. You do have quite a lot of fan options. You can, at the front you can put 2 fans that could be either 120mm or 140mm. Top you can put two that are 120mm. On the back you can put 120mm fan. At the bottom you can put 120mm fans. So you have loads of choice for a fan. So you can go with any like fan configuration you want, basically. and it's a very good, still a very good case for the price. So I would recommend you buy one. Or if you don't want this, you want to go for a more expensive case like the Define R4 that I mentioned in the last video, would be a very good choice as well. Next thing is the power supply. This is what's gonna power your system, so you need a good power supply. And if you check out our recommended estimated wattage for our parts, you can see that they've 434 watts, which is higher than our previous one by like quite a lot, by quite a few watt, quite a lot. So you're gonna need a beastie power supply to power our system. And in this case, if you could have gone with a 500 watt power supply. A 500 watt power supply would be great, been enough. But as I said, if you want to expand or you want to upgrade in the future, you need to allow you need to plan for that. So that's why I include a 600 watt power supply. It's the Corsair CX 600 watt power supply, which is a semi-modular, so you get the advantage of not having as many cables and better cable management, and it's A+ bronze certified, which will be very efficient. And it basically future-proofs our system, so we can upgrade it in the future. So we can so if you decide to get two graphics cards, like two R9 280s, and want to do Crossfire, 500 watts might not be enough. So that's why we've added the 600 watt power supply. And this is basically the end of our PC build. So if you've liked this video and you want to see more content like this, more PC builds, make sure you click the like button below and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for listening, and goodbye YouTube.